Good morning on this Saturday, coming to you live from the LBC in the home studio with day 6. We're on now of this May mood lift and shift. So I'm here live on Facebook in our It's the Yoga group and in Instagram on my story. I guess that's how it runs it. And then I love that these are being recorded, so you can find them both places. And then I'm also creating a YouTube playlist for the whole series. So if you want to catch up or catch even more resources, go find that on my Instagram bio or in the Facebook group. Actually, I need to make sure I have that posted because I'm updating it each day. So welcome back for day 6. And I honestly am so excited about today's tool. And I thought actually I was going to start the whole series with this one because it's probably my favorite. And it is, I think, maybe one of the most powerful tools that we get that I say are part of what we can get from a more like yoga approach, a more connected approach. And if you like meditation, this is certainly a way to feed and fuel our meditations of all sorts in amazing ways. And this tool is a meditation of its own. This tool is a form of energy medicine. It has a lot to do with how we're thinking and focusing, how we're even talking about things. And it has a very spiritual side too. So can you guess what it is? The vibrational bomb. That is such an amazing tool I've discovered, and you probably have too, but I'm just here to really remind us how much you can use gratitude, appreciation as like amazing mood lift and shifters, like in the moment and in the long run. So awesome and powerful. So, this is one of those tools that I feel like some of us, when we first hear about it, it's like, oh yeah, I know about that one. Like we've all know about that one, right? We were all even raised to do that one, forced to do that one, even, right? To say thank you. But fascinatingly, and I want to say right away, one of my big resources for this tool has been this book that I thought I'd make sure you know about. It's called The Magic by Rhonda Byrne. And it's a full book about gratitude and appreciation and 28 days of practices that you can use to play with and really get into and create a way of life that's about gratitude and appreciation. So what I want to talk about today in the video then is more how we can use that. There's all sorts of fun, playful tools that all sorts of teachers are offering. So I make it a practice to kind of have my own running list of different gratitude and appreciation tools that I can use with myself and do with myself, for myself, to myself, regarding any situation, and makes it better, turns out. So yeah, I want to talk a little bit about what I've come to understand about why gratitude and appreciation is such an amazing, huge shift and lift tool, so powerful, and actually why it can be a good idea to start to have a way of life, a way of focus that encourages us back to that gratitude place and really even encourages us to embody that more. Because part of what we've talked about a lot in this program, or I've talked about, you've listened, thank you, is that it's all energy, right? And that there's a momentum to any sort of energy. And really what we're playing with here is our power to influence the momentum of our mood, our power to influence the momentum of our mind and the mindset and what's happening in our mind. And then how much that is what really we're talking about with mental health, isn't it? Right? And again, every one of these I want to mention that I want to honor and respect wherever we're at in that spectrum of mental health. And if we've gotten labels or diagnoses or people we love have, I mean, all of us now have people in our lives, and maybe all of us in some ways could get some sort of diagnosis if we really looked hard enough or judged hard enough. But, you know, this is all about working with whatever is true for you right now and what is possible, even in you're starting to play more of a role in how you can shift that, how you can lift that, and how much it has to do with what you're doing each day, really. And if you don't know already, I'm a big fan of how we start our days is super important, in my opinion, and my experience with myself and others. So I love this program to guide you to decide to start your days in ways that are conscious and that do tune you in a way that works for your mood, mind, and mental health, if that's what you're interested in. I'm figuring if you're here listening, taking this in, it's because you have an interest, whether it's because you just have always had an interest or you currently do in these issues for yourself and others and people you love. Or if it's something that you're like really actively struggling with and it's like preventing you from moving on in life, you know. So, yeah, this is just my way of wanting to help because I care so much too with myself and others in my life and in the world, and just wanting to, you know, find out what can we do to help ourselves. And that maybe in the end it is about what we can do for ourselves, to ourselves, and with ourselves. And the power of more like every day, like not waiting days and days and days or weeks and months or years till we do some of these things that can have such a great power. And then like the fun side is like, oh my gosh, how much even better could I feel and think and flow and be in the world if I was doing a little more to stay on top of the momentum of it and know that it's all energy, right? And that there's a momentum and it is important. And what I'm doing, what I'm thinking, what I'm focusing on, what I'm spending my time on, what I'm listening to, what I'm reading, what I'm watching is all part of that tuning. So, yes, so this tool, gratitude appreciation, as a choice with a way to focus, right? It's a way to use our attention. It's a huge spiritual tool in that all the traditions talk about the power of gratitude. In fact, I do want to just read you this. This will take just like a minute from this book, The Magic, about just referencing, reminding us how pretty much every religion, every philosophy, every tradition has talked about this one. And it's like, why is everybody talking about it as such a big thing, you know, as the foundational thing that like you can't get around, right? And such a powerful tool and even a spiritual tool. Okay, so let me just read some of these quotes. So, with just across some of the traditions like Christianity, from Islam, Judaism, Buddhism, Sikhism, Hinduism, all have gratitude at their core, right? For some reason. So, Muhammad said that gratitude for the abundance you've received is the best insurance that abundance will continue. So this right away brings up the interesting part of momentum with life and even manifesting is that the more we're noticing what we're thankful for and getting into that, the energy, member of the transmitting energy and drawing more of that back towards you is that right away you start to shift your vibe and think more about what you are thankful for and attract more to be thankful for, right? So that's right away brings that up. Muhammad was talking about that. Buddha said that you have no cause for anything but gratitude and joy. That's pretty core, right? Lao Tzu said that if you rejoice in the way things are, the whole world will belong to you. And so you can see a lot of this is about acceptance, right? And presence, and that even just honoring what is true and finding a way to move towards appreciation about that as a power tool, it turns out, and even a psychology that's more strengthening. Krishna said that whatever he is offered, he accepts with joy. King David spoke of giving thanks to the whole world for everything between the heavens and the earth. And Jesus said, thank you, before he performed each miracle. So she talks about from the Australian Aborigines to the African Zulu, American Navajo, you know, all sorts of traditions have talked about giving thanks as such a huge tool. So what I've noticed as I've started to build in more of these tools that can include whether it's just like thinking about what we're thankful for, or certainly this is a big tool for the journal, for writing down various lists about gratitude that can really hone in that focus and raise that vibe and shift it and lift it and get us into it, right? And really help us embody that gratitude and that appreciation instead of just even just thinking about it, to actually be feeling the feelings of the gratitude and the appreciation. And yeah, that a lot of spiritual traditions would say that that is tuning us more into like that spiritual frequency, because you know that again, when we were talking about feelings as guidance and aligning us more with how our true self would see things or ourself or the situation. And maybe we play with the idea that the spiritual side of us, the spiritual side of life, is more in that thankful place of appreciation. So when we get in that place, we're reconnecting more with that, you know, realigning again maybe with that like more true part of us, the spiritual part of us in life. And that's why it just feels better too. And then it's such a mind shift, right? And then it gets us to more like thinking about what we do want. And so it's a nice like mind redirect. So like one of the tools I'll use that I got from lots of teachers, but from this book, The Magic, one of the big tools in that is to each day write down 10 things that you're thankful about, and then actually write it out like thank you for this, and then like take time to read it back to yourself and say it and feel it and think it, and even say like thank you, thank you, thank you for this thing, and to try to think of like 10 new things each day to be thankful for. And I do that. That's like one of the things I do almost every day to make sure, I mean, because it always, if I'm at all feeling bad or off or bummed or anything, you know, that doesn't feel good, I know that doing that, by the time it's done, I feel always so much different and better. It's insane. Like it's the biggest vibe shift tool I've found yet. Like so huge and so big. So that's why I've decided it's one of my tools I do each day. And then there's the ideas that, well, you can also, you know, there's a lot more you can do in the journal I'll talk about, and you could obviously do those in your head too, but there's a power to taking it to the page because of the energy of that. And it really has like a magnetism to bring things to the page. It turns out writing is one of the ways that we really powerfully can tune in and even shift our vibe and even align with more powerful forces, and even like get connected to the universe and all sorts of awesome stuff that all sorts of teachers have talked about. So, but that's why for me, like in that recent book I put out about what I feel like yoga is and the tools I see of yoga, journaling is one of those tools, and gratitude and appreciation to me is a tool of yoga. It's a practice of yoga, a practice of union, right? It's a practice that's going to get us more connected. It's a practice that's always going to reconnect us. And remember, we talked about connection is the real therapy of all this stuff. So anything that reconnects us. So gratitude, anytime, any moment that we can just shift towards what to be thankful for, even, and this is where it's cool too, even within the hard stuff. Like in that book, The Magic, she has a whole day about, and a tool where you can look at a situation that is really hard and that you're challenged with right now. And she calls it the glad game. And you can, and this is even something you can start to do with your kids. It's like a fun tool that really shifts the psychology and the focus to start to play with like, what are we glad about within the situation right now? And just, you know, like her example, I think is like if you have a parent in the hospital dying right now, you know, which feels so terrible and sad. But if you could find things to be thankful about within that situation, like I'm glad I have time to, you know, say my final goodbyes, and I'm glad that the family can be around, and I'm glad, you know, like it's an interesting, powerful tool to use even in the hard stuff. And then we can do this with relationships, which is really huge and fun and powerful. That any relationship that we're feeling challenged with, we can start to take time to make a list of things that we appreciate about that person and really focus on that and think about that. And the cool thing she points out, Rhonda Byrne, with that tool is it helps us start to see more of those things. Remember about how it being about what we're focusing on, growing, and the attention, and that there's a choice there. So it redirects our focus even within a relationship to what we do love about that person, what we do appreciate, even actually gets us to elicit more of that, right? The law of attraction side. And I didn't see this until I'd been trying this for years, but it also changes us to do that tool. So huge vibrational work we can do within relationships. But basically, she would say in a lot of these traditions that anything that isn't going great in our lives, maybe it is just because we're not being grateful enough for it. And that's like not to judge ourselves, right? But to say like, okay, so how could I play with finding a way to shift it and lift it by being more thankful? And so that's where, if you can see, because then you can see the flip, what's the opposite of being thankful is probably like complaining, right? And noticing what isn't going well and talking about that and focusing on that. And I think we think that's functional because we're like, okay, but that helps us solve the problem if we're focusing on the one thing that's not going well. But actually, right, we're starting to see the momentum to that kind of focus. And then again, if we're really looking at our mood and mental health, at least, that's where it's kind of cool to start your day in gratitude. And it could just, again, be sitting there with your cup of coffee, thinking about what you're thankful for right now. Like one of my favorite yoga teachers, Dana Flynn, would say, meditate on your beautiful life. And I love that because I feel like, it reminds you that no matter what your life, you could find things that are beautiful about it right now. And that the more that you meditate on it, which remember, that just means to decide to focus on it, to decide to think about it, to let that be your focus, your meditation. Like, what am I thankful for right now? Is such a powerful tool and director for the mind. And then we now know how much like what questions we're asking our mind and ourselves guide, what we're thinking about and what we're even discovering and feeling and experiencing. So that's where we're asking more, what am I thankful for? And then there's cool tools I love. She has some other really playful ones that, the power of like being thankful over our food and beverages and, even saying thank you before those. It's the energy of that and bringing that into what we're consuming. She'll even talk about how you can like sprinkle it almost like fairy dust, gratitude and sprinkle it into your food and drinks, or even like send that to other people. You can take gratitude walks where you're walking, and just because walking's a rad tool, which we're going to talk about in this program. But as you're walking, just kind of inviting yourself to start to think about things that you're thankful about in this moment, in the walk, or even the thank you walk. Here's a playful one that I'll use sometimes in my retreats is taking a thank you walk where you actually, and you could even just do this for like a minute when you walk up your stairs. Every time you walk up your stairs at your house or a certain passageway, just say thank you with each step. Just like thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And it sounds like dorky and weird, right? But then you start to see, what were you going to do in your head instead? And what if you were kind of on the other hand doing the opposite, like when curses, right? So yeah, it's just really interesting to see that. So some other quotes I wanted to read you, like that our gratitude is magnetic, to know that like that's a reason to choose it and use it because it is an energy, it's a vibration, and it is magnetic. So it's like sending out this vibe that's drawing back just more to be thankful about, whatever we're thinking about. And just gratitude is giving thanks, it's just giving thanks, right? And there's a real heartfulness to gratitude that really like brings us back into the heart more, right? And the like soul more, and the spiritual approach and feeling that is part of that reconnecting, right? It's like that's where you're steering your psychology almost with using a tool like this. And then you do start to notice, probably if you notice some of the happier people around you, they're probably pretty thankful people. It usually goes hand in hand. And the people who are maybe less happy are maybe, some of the people who are kind of focusing on what they're not thankful for. So it's just, it's really interesting to look at without that judgment, right? Without that. And then it's like with ourselves, what if we even learn to be more thankful with ourselves? I'm sure I'm growing that, but I always love to add that to like when we finish a mat practice, to like silently thank yourself for taking time today to do this for yourself. Thank you is the bridge from where you are now to the life of your dreams. That's a really fun tool to see, like it does vibe us up to be more in the vibe of what we're wanting to vibe, right? And like a higher vibe and a higher frequency, which is just going to go more with the reality that we do want. Gratitude's a feeling, though. It's a feeling. So to generate the feeling, the embodiment of it, maybe that's a yoga piece that we really remember, that it's about embodying it and not just intellectualizing it, even though both are great. And so it's about making gratitude a habit and a new way of life. I'm reading these quotes that I wrote down, a couple of them from Rhonda Byrne. So making it a habit and a new way of life is what I'm voting for as a tool from yoga in my experience. It might surprise us to call that part of yoga, but again, remember, yoga just means union. Yoga just means to connect. So whether you're feeling thankful in a pose or thankful on the toilet or thankful in the page or in a conversation in the moment, but that is a practice of yoga, right? It's a practice of reconnecting that is involving all the tools we've talked about already, like the presence, and that it's all energy, and that connection is going to be the therapy, and even to use breath, right? We could like breathe into thank you. Right? Let's see. And yeah, it's about practicing gratitude in a concentrated effort. So that's what we're also talking about, is not just like when, oh yeah, I should remember to be thankful, but like playing with it, like as a tool, like really playing with it more actively, especially if you're struggling with your mood, your mind, your mental health. I would vote for play with this. Try starting your days writing down things that you're thankful about. Or if you're feeling terrible, try doing that. Take a thank you walk, you know. It's really fun and exciting. And I don't think anybody's ever going to dismiss the power of doing that. And it's always going to feel good and better. Yeah, so gratitude, appreciation. And that's where that word appreciation, even if you look alike, what does that word appreciate mean? It's like when we see value in something, like when we say the value of a house, it appreciated so much percentage wise. Like literally, that's what gratitude is doing. It's literally growing something. And like appreciation literally does like grow something, right? And it's an awesome tool. So I'm super happy to have discovered this, to be playing with this, and to share it with you. Yeah. And again, I'd recommend that book, The Magic, if you want to get some more great ideas on how to weave this into your life, whatever your age, whatever your stage, whatever your diagnosis, you know? So I love you so much. And thanks again for being with me. See you tomorrow for the next tool. Namaste. Goodbye.